Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm B. Lynn Goodwin, and everybody calls me Lynn. I'm here today with some wonderful women writers from Story Circle Network's eCircles group. We're going to read brief pieces that were generated from the prompts we use each month. Prompts always vary, and we've been in the habit of reading brief excerpts from our writing and giving positive feedback, which encourages people to develop what they've written. Today, we're happy to share some results with you. Our 9 readers are Rosemary Keeble, Donna Landy, Carol Wexler-Blotter, Marion Hunt, Mary Hall, Kathy Arside, Carol Zeal, Len Leatherwood, and me. Special thanks to Carol Zeal, who first had the idea for this group, and Len Leatherwood, who's the current president of Story Circle Network. Our first reader is Rosemary Keeble, who will be reading a piece called Baby, What a Big Surprise. She's a journalist and award-winning author of The Art of Losing It, a memoir of grief and addiction, published by She Writes Press. Take it away, Rosemary.
Baby, what a big surprise. It's a choker of white and black pearls with an oversized centerpiece, a brushed gold jaguar with diamond eyes set upon a large oval jade gem. This was the first of many expensive gifts my doting late husband lavished upon me. Brian died of cancer when he was 41, leaving me on his own with our 2 little girls. That is another story, so much so that it turned into a 306-page memoir. The necklace is so fancy, I was afraid to wear it. 3 years after Brian died, I met Peter Cetera, lead singer of Chicago. He's famous for his melodious voice in songs such as Saturday in the Park and Baby, What a Big Surprise. We ended up dating. Yes, I dated the Peter Cetera. He was 50 years old and G2 Hampson, with an intoxicating yen, a head of needs to run my fingers through it, thick blonde hair, exquisite blue eyes, 1 gold earring in his left earlobe, colossal talent, sparkling personality, and a sense of humor. He once said he was planning on opening a pizza joint simply so that he could call it Pizza Cetera's Pizza Terrace. I invited him to my 40th birthday party and thought if I was ever to wear this opulent necklace, this would be the occasion. My friend Jane, who tended to be a bit blunt, exclaimed, "Oh my God, where'd you get that gaudy thing?" I felt totally deflated. The next time I had the courage to wear it, I went clothes shopping at Suzanne's, a popular shop at my local strip mall. I visit here as a social event. I often chat with Suzanne herself, who is a bit of a West Vancouver icon. I'm also friendly with the sales ladies, who offer you Starbucks while they hold you captive in the change room, inundating you with their latest irresistible attire. Of course, the gang noticed my necklace and commented on it. "It's gorgeous and exquisite, unique. It's so you." "Really?" I said. "You don't think it's a little gaudy?" "Yes, but gaudy is in." Every time I open the drawer wide enough to see this necklace, it blinds me with its brilliance, and I think of adoring Brian, seductive Peter, and that clutch of gals at Suzanne's. That's a lot of energy around a single gold and diamond-eyed jaguar. Oh, and about Peter Cetera, he could not handle my 2 young daughters who had just lost their daddy, so he split. Baby, what a big surprise. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Next, we will hear from Donna Landy, who is sharing a piece called The Pixie. She's a contributor to River Journal, and her work has appeared in Writer Advice and Hudson Valley Magazine. It's all yours, Donna.
The Pixie. I learned about betrayal the summer I turned 5 when a hairstylist named Terry moved in next door. Before Terry, getting a haircut meant sitting on the bathroom sink while my mother chopped my bangs with all-purpose household shears. When Terry offered my sister and me free stylish haircuts, Mom jumped at the opportunity. Terry sat me on 2 telephone books she placed on a kitchen chair, untied my ribbons holding my wavy shoulder-length pigtails in place, and I giggled with anticipation until I saw the cascade of ringlets land on the speckled linoleum. My teeth sought my bottom lip, and I looked to my mother for assurance everything was fine. Despite Mom's expression of approval, everything wasn't fine. Terry had given me the pixie cut. I dropped to my knees and gathered the ringlets into a neat pile. I was unable to accept my hair was no longer a part of me. I refused to leave it behind and tossed in the trash. Can I have a bag? I asked, looking up at Terry, who had lit a cigarette and basked in the afterglow of my mutilation. Terry let out a big belly laugh, while rummaging in a cupboard for a brown paper bag. With my hair in tow, I ran home ahead of my mother and sister. After a quick look in the mirror, I raced to the kitchen where Mom kept the Elmers. I coated the ringlets with glue and stuck them back on my head. Hey, Ma, look what the dummy did, my sister yelled as soon as she saw me. My mother wasn't angry. She washed my hair, persuaded me to put the ringlets in the trash, and told me my father would be happy when he saw my new hairstyle. Since Dad had always doted over my sister, I saw it as an opportunity to get his attention. Every time I heard a noise outside, I ran to the door, hoping to find his car in the driveway while practicing my version of the Miss America stance. Somehow, I remember every detail about that day except Dad's reaction when we saw my hair. I wonder if that may be because he pretended not to notice. Through the years, I only remember having my picture taken once while I had the pixie cut, and Dad displayed the photo on his dresser. He'd taken it when we'd gone fishing. I wore a plaid shirt and Dennis the Menace-style overalls, handed down from Cousin George. A sunfish dangled from the end of my fishing pole. I looked like a boy, and I frequently played the part, helping Dad wash the car and rake leaves, while my sister learned to knit and embroider. After my mother died, I found her diary, where she wrote about a miscarriage I didn't know she'd had, after my sister and before me. Convinced the sexless baby she carried for 10 weeks had been a boy, she secretly named him Robert. The gut-wrenching entry expressed the pressure she'd felt to give my father a son because his brother had 5. Suddenly, I understood the pixie cut and why Santa brought a Roy Rogers cowboy outfit, gun and holster, the year I asked him for a Chatty Cathy doll. It also explained why at Halloween, I got the devil and skeleton costumes and my sisters Snow White and Cinderella. My parents were far from perfect, but they excelled at hiding the disappointment they felt the day I was born. And when I outgrew the cowboy outfit, made a mess of my face experimenting with makeup, and wobbled around the house in my first pair of heels, never again wearing my hair short enough to show my ears. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Next, we will hear from Carol Wexler Blotter, and her story is titled Mine Were Like Little Rosebuds, Barely Seeable. She's contributed writings to Schaller Press, Story Circle Network Journal, Writing at Real Anthologies, Jewish Writing Project, Jewish Literary Journal, New Millennium Writings, Poems to Story Circle Network's Real Women Write, and Covenant of the Generations. She is a wife, mother, grandmother, and a recently retired psychotherapist. Your turn, Carol.
Thank you, Lynn. Mine were like little rosebuds, barely seeable. 1956. I ached to have breasts that looked like breasts. 8th grade was the time when girls started having breasts and wearing bras. I could see their bra straps, and I knew they weren't childish white undershirts, like the one I was still wearing. I didn't need a bra, but I wanted one. I begged my mother to buy me one, please. So my mother, who was only too happy to please me, I begged my mother to buy me one. So my mother, who was only too happy to please me, even though she knew that I didn't need a bra, took me to a specialty bra shop in our neighborhood in Brooklyn. We bought the smallest bra they had, even though it was too big for me. Mom put a little cotton in it so I could wear it and look like the other girls. 2017. Fast forward, 5 years ago, at age 75, I developed large, floppy boobs, otherwise called breasts. I discovered them when the technician had to subject my enlarged boobs, now with extra flesh, into the grips, one at a time in different positions, into the maniacal mammogram machine. If my boobs could have talked, I think my right breast would have said, "What a painful thing kept grabbing at me. It hurt, and I thought that would be the end of me, and I'm not ready to die. Whoa, thankfully, I'm out of the death machine." And my left breast would have said, "I hated it, pulled, pushed, jostled. I thought I lost my nipple, but I didn't. Mothers need to nurse their babies. I couldn't lose my nipple, but was I sore? Much too sore to cry." 2022. I read about a store that specialized in bras and bra fittings. When I walked into this simulated, sensually created den of feminine beauty, or perhaps it was a house of prostitution with a faux front as a bra shop, I started to choke from the smells emanating from the dressing rooms. When I asked the salesperson about this, she said that women like these smells. Not me, I'm always an outlier. Besides, I have respiratory allergies, and these smells make me cough. Reluctantly, I stuck it out to make sure that I could get fitted. To my surprise, I was measured now as a 30D when I had been a 30A. My significantly overpriced new bra, costing $66 before taxes, is the one dazzling, highly sexy feminine part of my otherwise ordinary lingerie wardrobe. It's color berry, a pinkish brownish wine color with a shine, with pretty trim around the cups and a tiny pinkish bow at the cleavage. It's fashionable.
Thank you, Carol. Marion Hunt is reading Off to the Overnight. Excuse me, she's joined Story Circle Network a couple of years after its inception, is a retired elementary school teacher, and a member of Writing Circle number 6. Your turn, Marion. Marion, please remember to unmute. I forgot to remind people of that.
Okay,
Thank you.
off to the overnight. "Oh no," the tie handler behind us shouted in clear English. My husband, Jeff, and I turned to each other, behind us for a moment, and then to our right and down, far down. Our saddle atop the seemingly unhappy elephant, carrying the weight of Jeff's over 180 pounds, combined with my 115 or so, was pulling to the left. We were being carried along a narrow trail up high in one of Thailand's mountainous areas, headed to a remote village and a small group of inhabitants who knew little of the world beyond their place, only picking up hints of life outside from visitors like us. Whap was the sound we heard next as the handler smacked the poor animal from behind. Then he quickly walked forward to grab the saddle and motioned for Jeff to jump off. Jeff's place was on the left side of the saddle and close to the hill, while my seat beside him enabled me to look straight down to the valley way below. Our positions were no coincidence. The handler must have taken a look at the two of us and known exactly what he had to do when we started our trek. I do recall thinking I'd seen a worried look in his eyes when we first approached to ask him to take us by elephant up the mountain. Jeff jumped off, and the Thai man pushed against the saddle to adjust it before Jeff could jump back on. We were somewhere in our 40s then, and I was in the habit of trusting that guides we encountered on foreign travels were competent in their jobs. At the right time and place, naivety can be an open door to adventure. We did make it to the village unharmed, but all four of us arrived hot, sweaty, and dirty. That four-legged animal had not been happy about his job. Every once in a while during our trip, he would shovel his trunk through the dirt, then trunk raised high and curved behind him. He would let out a giant snuff directly at us, coating us with dirt and snot. Good for him. He wasn't going to be taken advantage of without letting us know how he felt. When we reached the village, my feet on the ground, I was handed a bunch of bananas to share with our troublesome taxi. I began to pull one banana off and peel it, but our hungry and tired guy raised his trunk, twirled it around, and captured the whole bunch, shoving it down his mouth and chewing rapidly. Forget the preparation, he appeared to say. I'm hungry. Jeff and I laughed, and then we grabbed our overnight backpacks and headed toward a small gathering of widely smiling hilltop residents of all ages, eagerly waiting to greet us. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. Mary Hall is next, and her piece is entitled The Lone Swinger. Mary has been a professional writer and editor for 60 years in scientific media and popular magazines. Take it away, Mary.
Thank you. The Lone Swinger. I'm moving slowly at first, feeling heavy like dead weight. Then pushing off the ground a little until the movement begins to create its own energy, I begin to feel lighter as I rise above the rut. Eyes closed, I feel ill with the motion. Eyes open, I become part of it. I need to see what is going on around me and in me. When I try not to look, to shut out the pain, it becomes worse, as if it gathers power in the darkness. Slowing down again, I lean into the swing to regain momentum and energy. Then, with some sense of understanding, I let the motion stop. My fingers unwind from the squeaky chain, and I smell the sweat of many hands before mine as I release and slide off the seat. Have others looked for answers here too? Have they found their answers here? Somehow I have arrived at a station on my internal journey. It's not resolution, but a deeper understanding and acceptance of today's experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Next is Kathy Arside, who's reading a piece called Interview. She is semi-retired from a 45-year-old psychotherapy practice, currently driven to finish writing a spiritual memoir, while also having the delightful honor of being published 6 or 7 times by Story Circle Network. It's all yours, Kathy.
Thank you. Interview. When my mother had finally had too much pain in her life, she drove into the mountains, laid out pictures of her daughters on her car seat, drank a gallon of wine, wrote sloppy goodbye notes, and finally she gave up. It was the gunshot blood splatter on the photographs that haunted me for years. Those droplets of blood were on the fronts of my younger sister's pictures, but on the back of mine. So I'd always assumed that being an unmarried, pregnant teenager had triggered terrible memories and resentment from her carrying me. I'd always assumed my birth represented the beginning of her long list of failed dreams. I'd assumed my mom was disappointed in me, even disgusted with me, so she couldn't stand to look at my face at the end of her life. A few years ago, when finishing up some therapy about my mother, I interviewed her in my own psychodrama scene during the last 20 minutes of her life. I played both of our parts in a detailed role reversal exercise. Acting as my mother, I listened to my tortured daughter Kathy's many questions, like, why did you choose to die rather than helping me keep my baby? And how am I supposed to take care of an infant and all my younger sisters? Those are your children, not mine. For many years, my internal story answers from my mother were filled with disdain. I imagined her saying, this serves you right. Now you'll know what it's like to have a baby ruin your life. During this new in absentia interview, when I asked my mom why my photo had been turned face down, she still said the same exact words I had always imagined. I couldn't look at you. But now, putting myself fully in her shoes, how she said it was completely unexpected. She said, I just couldn't look at you. There was no disgust, only love, only sorrow. I guess my father was right. From the time my sisters and I could talk enough to disagree with each other, he would say to each of us about our side of the story, well, that's one way you could see it. Now I can see that in her lifelong cumulative pain, my mother desperately needed relief. Now I get it. Had she seen my face in those last moments, she could not have followed through with what she believed was her only option. Now I finally understand my mother's final act had nothing to do with me. From her perspective, she truly had no other choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Carol Zeal is reading a piece called Stripper. She has been a member of Story Circle Network for 15 years, came up with the original concept for this group, and became hooked on writing in 4th grade when Sister Morita entered her stellar memoir piece on wearing glasses, and it was published in a national magazine. It is her one and only published piece. Take it away, Carol.
Okay. Thank you. I stepped out of the darkness and into the neon lights. Finally, I had come home. Rooted to the beer-soaked carpet, I stood in a moment of resurrection. Like Lazarus rising from the dead, I came alive. Scales fell from my eyes and I saw absolute beauty and freedom. The stage was above me, a shrine to womanhood, and I had finally found my place in the world. I had never truly seen a woman's body before. Raised in a convent for many years, t-shirts and cotton bras were the norm, never tassels or pasties. We had 3-minute showers to discourage familiarity with our bodies. My faith tradition taught me that the body was a source of evil, but here was Eve before the fall, revealing the possibility of who I might be as a woman. An exotic dancer became my mentor. I returned to that club for many months and sat at the edge of the stage, me and a string of adoring men, pockets full of dollars. I was mesmerized by her movement, her grace. No shame, no embarrassment, or apologies for being female, just celebration through dance. Celebration through her flexibility, openness, boldness, and sense of humor. And she reveled in the process of revealing herself. What I brought to the edge of her stage was my own history of sexual trauma and my own thwarted connection to my body. I was hoping for healing. Maybe at least osmosis would gift me with the freedom and acceptance that I saw in her. Each week I returned to the edge of the stage to memorize her movements. Eventually the edge was not enough, and I wanted to be there with her. I wanted to be absorbed into her energy, her ambiance, her very person, and experience that freedom. I wanted to be part of her grace and sensuality. I wanted to burst from my cocoon and merge with this creature who spread her wings like a butterfly. I wanted to be her. My time did come. There was a side stage for neophytes. I stood at the bottom and waited my turn. The woman before me was in her 50s. She was wooden, jerking like a robot, and her eyes were as flat and blank as little orphan Annie's. Something inside of me shifted. I looked at her husband, who was drooling and empty-eyed. I looked around me, and all of the men were slack-faced and wild-eyed. They were not who I imagined them to be in the beginning, temple priests worshiping a priestess. Once again, the scales fell. This time I saw a different story. I never went back. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Next is Story Circle Network President Len Leatherwood. Her piece is called My Mother and Lady Macbeth. She's the program coordinator for Story Circle Network's online classes program and current president of Story Circle Network, and has been teaching writing privately to students in Beverly Hills for the past 22 years. She's a nationally recognized writing coach, as well as an award-winning author. Len has published work in flash fiction and nonfiction, and has been nominated for 2 Pushcart Prizes, which honor the best of the small presses. Her blog, 20 Minutes a Day, can be found at lenleatherwood.com. It's all yours, Len.
Thank you, Len. My Mother and Lady Macbeth. Out, damn spot, out, I say. Lady Macbeth, Act 5, Scene 1. I think it's a fair guess that most people are exposed to these words for the first time when they either read or attend Shakespeare's play Macbeth. I, on the other hand, heard them routinely as a little kid when my mother was frustrated with her 6 children and demanded that we all go outside to wrestle and carry on rather than do these things in the house. While Lady Macbeth was referencing the blood on her hands from her role in the murder of King Duncan, my mother was threatening to draw blood from all of us if we didn't get out immediately from her side. I can still see that narrow-eyed look on Mom's face and her arm outstretched and finger pointing to the front door. Out, out, damn spot, she would say. If we all didn't hightail it out of there that very moment, then we might soon feel the sting of a switch on our bare legs, which we often did when Mom was unhappy with our behavior. I don't quite know why or how Mom came to use that Shakespearean phrase. I certainly never heard any of my friends' mothers quoting Lady Macbeth. What I do know is that those words, coupled with the very strained look on Mom's face, left no doubt that she meant business and that we better head out to safer parts of the property. Imagine my surprise when I heard those words during a play production and realized their origin. How they ever came to mean something so very different for my mother than those uttered by Lady Macbeth will remain a mystery. However, suffice it to say that both women were edging toward insanity when those words burst forth. Not for the same reason, of course, but the sound of desperation was unmistakable in both. Luckily, my mother's fate was a good deal kinder than Lady Macbeth's. But then again, my mother never succumbed to the temptation to actually murder us or convince someone else to do the dirty work for her. I can't say the same for Lady Macbeth. Thank you.
Thank you, Len. And finally, I'm B. Lynn Goodwin, and I'm reading a very short piece called Watching and Waiting, which I wrote while considering a prompt we'll be using soon in this group. I own Writer Advice, www.writeradvice.com. I've published an award-winning memoir and an award-winning YA, have more work forthcoming, and run these workshops and teach an independent study class here at Story Circle Network. I also review books and do about 1 million other things, and I love it all. And I need to pull this up. Watching the darkness. Looking across the Salton Sea, not far from the Mexican border, I see diamonds sparkling long distance through the cold night air. Okay, I see electric lights twinkling. Pick your illusion, then defend it when necessary. Across the road, much closer to me, headlights zoom north while red taillights leave contrails above the asphalt as the cars head south. A police car's swirling lights, red and blue, pull someone over. An RV's also pulled over with its taillights on and its pop-outs closed. Watching? Waiting? Inside the parking lot, staring out the front window of our RV. I'm not expecting any trouble, but you never know what lurks outside a desert casino. Nothing is likely to happen, but anything could. Silently, I wait. And that is some samples of our writing and reading from the Writing Extravaganza, comprised of eCircles members. I want to thank all of our participants today. If you are seeing this and you would like to join us, please email Carol Zeal for the Zoom link, and we would love to have you join us. It is a pleasure working with all of these women, and we're just going to keep on going. So I hope to see you soon. Thanks so much.